If so, why does the book of Joshua provide such a different account? One of outside conquest by means of a war led by the hosts of the Lord. Because in this account, military skill is much less important than ritual preparation and purity. Right? The Israelites march around Jericho for 6 days with 7 priests carrying 7 horns and the Ark of the Covenant. And then with a blast and a shout, the walls tumble. The conquest is represented as a miraculous victory by God. That's emphasized in Joshua 24:12. It was God, not the sword or the bow, that drove out the enemy. And why the claim of the utter destruction of the Canaanites when evidence points to close Canaanite origins? This practice, which I mentioned before, is known as cherem, or the ban, is not unique to Israel. There's a very important famous inscription from the 9th century BCE, written by King Mesha of Moab. Moab is to the southeast. No, so I'm bad with directions. Southwest. Yeah, that's east. Yeah. So kind of to the east, southeast of the Dead Sea. So King Mesha of Moab. And in the inscription he writes, he boasts, "And the god Chemosh said to me, 'Go, take Nebo from Israel.' So I went by night and fought against it from the break of dawn until noon, taking it and slaying all 7,000 men, boys, women, and girls, and maidservants, for I had devoted them to destruction for the god Ashtar Chemosh," referring to cherem. It's likely that such claims are hyperbolic in Moab, and it's likely they were hyperbolic in Israel. But that doesn't lessen the shock value for a modern reader, even though war in our time is no less savage and no less brutal. But the important question here is why a biblical writer or editor would want to insist that the Canaanites were to be completely destroyed. I think assertions of national identity and independence are often predicated on differentiation from others. If the Israelites were in fact basically Canaanites who had withdrawn from the larger collective, who insisted on the overlordship of Yahweh, then Canaanites who did not join them in this were a special threat to the new Yahwism. This same dynamic of intense sibling rivalry appears again in the first few centuries of the Common Era, when some Jews separated from others and in differentiating themselves and creating their own identity as Christians, felt it necessary to engage in devastatingly vituperative and violent rhetoric against their fellow Jews. The interesting thing, however, is that we mustn't ignore another voice that's in the biblical text, and it's a voice that adds a level of complexity to this picture. Because alongside the idealized portrayal of the Israelite conquest in the first half of the book of Joshua, alongside the call for the destruction of all Canaanites, we find interesting tales of alliances and incorporation of various Canaanite groups. Indeed, who is one of the heroines of the Battle of Jericho? If not a Canaanite woman, a prostitute no less, named Rachav. She declares her faith in Yahweh and she delivers the city into Joshua's hands. The biblical writer saw fit to preserve and include this account of a heroic Canaanite prostitute. Another Canaanite group, the Gibeonites, trick the Israelites into making a covenant with them, and it's a covenant the Israelites then feel bound to observe.